Welcome, everybody, to the UNnormalized Podcast. This is your host, Frankie A., and we're here with another awesome episode with a fantabulous guest that I absolutely admire, and I will tell you why when we're going through our interview. So today I'm joined with soprano opera singer Liz Perryman. So Liz, welcome to the UNnormalized Podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I actually am reaching out in the kind of beginning stages of the podcast to people that I really admire what they do, or I have had experiences with personally that touched my life, and I want to kind of expose everybody to why I love these people or have such a respect and admiration for them. So you were just like a natural person that I felt the world needed to, or however big this world in this podcast is right now. Yeah. So to talk to people about their experiences and what I call the life unnormalized. I'm a social worker by trade, and this kind of is a concept that I work with my people that I work with in my life coaching and my social work working, that life doesn't always have to fit in a box or conventional, or you can make your own life, your own way, your own path. And the unnormalized concept of it is kind of do your thing, and not fearful of judgment or apprehension or anything like that. So that's the concept of the show. And how I should start is how I actually met Liz, which is kind of an interesting story. So when I was going through kind of like a aha moment and having a new life journey for myself, I felt that I needed to get in touch with my spiritual side of things. So I was looking into different churches that I can be a part of or feel a connection to. So I'm from the city of Newark originally, and when I reached out to like different spiritual facilities or houses of worship, I looked into, we have a beautiful cathedral, Sacred Heart Cathedral, in the city of Newark. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go like all like 9 yards. So I went to Sacred Heart. I looked up like what services I can be a part of, and they had the choir, I guess, component of the services. And so I went, and when I went, guys, when I tell you, it was beyond like a spiritual experience.
Wow.
When I heard the choir for the first time, it literally, like, I broke down. Like, it really was a very spiritual experience. So Liz, I was like saying to myself at the end of it, I want to be part of that, because it touched me so deeply that, like, when I feel passionate about something and something touches me like that, I instantly want to be part of what they're doing. So I reached out, went home, Googled and researched you guys in the choir, and found who I call Sir John Miller, his contact information. So, and I've sung in, like, I'm not a big singer. Dancing is more of my specialty. Singing is something like I like to do, but not like to the level that I'm playing. So I reach out to John. John contacts me back, and he says, come in for like an audition. At that point, I should have probably should have clicked in me, but it didn't. So I do the audition with John, and he's like, yeah, I want you I put you as a bait in the bass section.
Good for you.
Come to the, rehearsals. So I go, and lo and behold, I mean, first of all, you guys have to Google, maybe I'll put some images of Sacred Heart and what it looks like. Very overwhelming to someone who's kind of coming into like their journey in life, okay? So I'm sitting with a bunch of people. Lo and behold, Liz is sitting in front of me. So everyone's talking. I'm kind of new and like feeling like the jitters of being the new guy. And we start. Now, first of all, I don't know how to read music. I just kind of like went, like with no kind of like inhibition, just went. And the choir starts. And like I'm literally taken aback because now I'm like in the mix of everybody.
Yeah.
So there's people like Liz who are sitting there. We're singing. We stopped for a break or something, and I talked to the gentleman Sam next to me, and he's
Yay,
like,
Sam.
"Yeah," he's like, like, what's your experience and all that? I'm like, like I'm just like trying to be a parishioner in the choir, and so he's telling me, and I find out, guys, that basically I'm the only person there that has no professional singing experience. So like now I'm like literally pooping in my pants because I'm like, what did I get myself into? So, but it was such a nice, welcoming experience because even though I did not have any professional singing experience, I mean, like, guys, the people that are in this choir have some like phenomenal, real professional singing experience. So I was like, wow, like just to be amongst these people. And that's how I met Liz, is she was sitting in front of me. She was part of the choir. And I was instantly like amazed by her gift and her craft, her talent. So thank you for that, Liz. I just wanted to tell people how I kind of met you because it was just a really unique experience. I feel like I was put there for some divine reason. And I think you guys gave me more than I gave to you guys.
It was so great to have you. I just love your spirit.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so, Liz, tell people who Liz is, where you come from, some of your background. I love starting with guests like that because in my field, I feel like that part of a person leads to who they are in their journey in life now. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit where you come from, family, stuff like that.
I'm from Chicago, from a western suburb, and I was an extremely shy human, so afraid of everything, and had a very outgoing brother. And my whole family are musicians and singers. So my mom and dad are both music teachers and choir directors. My mom she's 80, and she still directs my dad's choir, who he passed away 19 years ago, playing the organ. So she took over his choir since then. And I decided I was not going to do music because my parents were musicians. I was going to be like, contrary. And then it just kept finding me. I always loved acting. I was always like the villainous character because I like all things villains. And that was fun. But then as soon as I went to college, I'm like, okay, so I got to like make money and stuff. So I decided to get a music degree. And I realized I liked it against my better judgment. And I just started teaching. I first taught in a little farm town in downstate Illinois called Litchfield, Illinois. And then I had an opportunity to teach on the south side of Chicago so I could come back home. And so I taught there for 4 years. And then I realized I wanted to really pursue opera. I have one of those voices that are like, the horns, the braids and horns. So I'm a Wagnerian soprano, which means, I'm like the meat and potatoes versus like my wife, who is like the beautiful desserts. So I'm more girthy. And so I found a teacher. As a singer, you go and you find a teacher, and there you go to wherever they are. And he was in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I, got into my 15-foot truck and drove from Chicago with my boyfriend at the time. That life has changed. And my mom and dad. And he's amazing, Lionel. We're still really good friends. And so we just drove to Vegas, and my dad and him moved all my crap upstairs. And I lived there for a couple of years. I loved it.
I love Vegas. Love Vegas.
I could live there. My
Yeah.
wife's from Phoenix, and she's like, no Vegas. So yeah. But I loved it there. I loved the people there. I was lucky. Last year for my 50th, I went back and saw a bunch of my friends there. But from then, I found another teacher in Louisiana. So I went from Las Vegas to Louisiana, New Orleans, so from Sin City to the Big Easy. And I worked on a doctorate there. And that was really just, gave me so much fundamentals for my singing and a lot of contacts with people. And I was there and I was thinking of finishing it, but I was also like in quandary because at the time I was in my mid-30s and wanted to really sing. And this was like 2001, and October of 2001, and my father abruptly at 63 passed away, and he was really kind of my muse always. And so at that point I was like, let's do this. So I moved to New York, realized I couldn't afford to live in New York, so lived in New Jersey with my gay best friend, Ray Fritz, who I adore. We found a place in Jersey City, and then he ended up wanting to be in the city, so I moved to Elmwood Park. And then my friend Ray's like, well, why don't you go sing in this opera program in Roosevelt Island? Like Roosevelt Island, like where the insane asylum was? He's like, yeah. So I did, and lo and behold, there is this girl, Elizabeth Honer, who I meet, and we do this thing called Death by Aria at the beginning of every opera program. And so we all are sitting there, and I have my music. I'm like, I gotta go to the restroom. And so I leave my music, and I come down, and this girl over here is looking through my music, paging through. I'm like, she just stole my music. Anyway, she and I met, and unbeknownst to me at the time, I was like, I think that I may not be straight. So unbeknownst to me that she likes me. And I'm like, she's like the hot popular girl, and I'm not. And so I'm like, okay. And so then at the end, she like tells me, oh, I really have feelings for you, but I had a girlfriend there. So we ended up, long story short, getting together. And at that time, it was not legal. So we dated for a very long time. My brother was incredibly accepting. My mom has really come around and like totally loves us. And in some ways, I think my dad kind of sent her to me. So, and now in 2015, we got married, and we're about to celebrate our 4th anniversary.
Yay!
So, and then from being in New York, I went to Mannes and studied opera and really established myself here. And I teach elementary music, which I love doing. And it allows me to be done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you have, high school jobs, you can't do that. And then I get to sing. I sing with like Bronx Opera, and I just sang with the Maury Opera in New York. And so I can sing part-time, freelance, and also have benefits. It's a blend of, and then of course I do my church jobs with the cathedral, and I sing in Summit with their church choir, the Presbyterian. So that's how I got here.
And what an impressive journey that is. Not only through your musical journey, but a life journey. And I think that's great, that message to send to people that when you find something that not only you're passionate about doing professionally, but when you're coming into your own and identifying who you are in life, that it's okay to do unconventional things and try different things. I totally believe that I don't believe in big labels, so I don't believe in saying you're straight, you're gay, or that, because people meet people,
Exactly.
And that's your story is proof of that. You find people who, like you said, your dad put her in your path for some reason, and it's meeting those people and having connections. There's nothing like finding your soulmate.
Truly.
It's an awesome thing to have somebody to support you in your journey that you totally feel connected to. So love it. I love that you love your story about how you and your wife met, and that you have that common bond of music. That's such an awesome thing. I mean, for people who don't know, I mean, I love following Liz on Facebook because she shares her journey, and it's such an awesome thing to see. I feel like I know your mom. I feel like I've met your wife once at a barbecue, but I feel like I know you guys. I'm part of your life and your home, and I love the creativeness that you guys bring with each other. So you said that you initially did not want to kind of go this music route.
Right.
So what point did you say, I really need to do this This
Yeah.
there's like creative people, creative. I like to call people like yourself creative beings because
Yeah.
you just exude. It comes like out of your pores. So how when was that moment that like you got bit by like the singing bug and said like I have to do this. There's a
Right.
calling, you know.
I had two events. I always loved music, but I was so like repressed about being fluid and not being all of myself. I would just kind of go through the motions, and I was given a good voice, but I just wasn't, like you say, it comes out of my pores. But that's something that I've had to work on and still work on. So there, one instance was my voice somehow, I was living in Las Vegas, got me to the regional finals of the Metropolitan Opera auditions. I was 28, and I got up there with these 9 other singers, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing up here? Excuse my language.
No, there
I
you
was
can
just
say
like
whatever you want.
crazy. So I get up, and we're being audio recorded. The regionals were in Los Angeles, and I get up, and these other singers are like refined and polished and totally out of the box, and I was, still not. And I get up and we sing my first aria. It's in Czech. It's called Rusalka, Song to the Moon. It's a great song. And they pick the second piece. Okay, here's 5 pieces. And they pick I still have the recording, the cassette of this. He's like, and now Elizabeth Perryman will sing Je dis que rien. It was the one song I did not want them to pick. So I'm like, oh man, the lights are up, and because I can see the audience because they're judging us, and I go and I get a drink of water because they allow you to do that, and I sang it, and it was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, I like didn't crash and burn, but it was just okay. And I got like the pity golf clap, and I'm like, okay. So then I keep kind of going through the motions. I didn't, I was happy that I made the top 10, but I'm like, what am I doing? And then I got to play this other instance that made me realize that I did want to do it, as I was singing the part of Sister Angelica, which is a Puccini opera. It's a young girl who has a kid out of wedlock with a really conservative family. They send her to a convent. They keep the kid. The parents die. The aunt comes back and says, 5 years later, and says, "Oh, by the way, I'm disinheriting you, and your kid's dead. See you later." So I'm literally on stage doing this role, and I'm thinking in my head while I'm on stage, "What the hell are you doing up here?" And the other half of me is like, "You're supposed to be up here." And for me, that was the most, prominent example of that. Hey, I'm
Do
gonna do
this.
this. But I
Hmm.
remember that real quandary of like, what are you doing up here singing this? What? Why?
Hmm.
And it was too much of me up there, as opposed to now I kind of really try to disappear into the role, and then I don't think those things.
Yeah.
So that was what changed it.
And I always like to talk to people about like, especially people who are in um, performing arts and things like that, because there are a lot of people out there who have that calling or that pull towards that, and I can identify with those people because, and I've said this before on many shows that I've done, that I had experiences in dance
Oh
that
wow.
put me into like a crossroads, and because of my parents and things like that. Great, great. I love my parents to death, but they, and I'm a parent, so I kind of
Oh
identify with that. That you want your child to go like a safer route, a
yep,
more secure route,
absolutely.
and I went that route instead of kind of following my inner self telling me that you should pursue these opportunities. So I love to hear from people like yourself, Liz, like that defining moment that
Yes.
says, go the conventional route, or I have to listen to my voice and go with what I'm being pulled to and
Yeah.
drawn to. And
And
I
it's
think
it's not
we
it's not a fun thing. It's a hard thing.
yeah, yeah,
And
no, exactly. And that's part of it, is I think maybe that what scares maybe parents or something like that to allow their kids to go that route is because it is very unknown, and it can be scary to people.
yeah,
But it's that courage is kind of like what I like to tap into people, and I want their message to be heard, is that you have to like take that leap of faith, trust your inner self, to say it's okay to try this, and if it doesn't work, you can go a different route, but you have to entertain that ability, that opportunity, that you can do this and not have to go a conventional route. And that's with everything. That's just not with getting into a field like yours. It's anything.
Right.
So I love to just hear from people and want their message to be heard. What at that defining moment, how you made the decision to be where you are right now.
Yeah.
Which I'm so glad, because we
Oh,
get
thank
the
you.
gift at the end. You know what I
Thank
mean,
you.
of what you do. Um, what made you like I'm gonna have you do like maybe hopefully a little bit so people could hear what
Oh,
Liz
cool.
does,
Sure.
but what made you, now you find your gift that okay, I can really sing my ass off, like you're building your confidence. Why opera
Um,
versus like more of like a popular kind of, not that I mean like pop music kind
yeah.
of.
Um, okay, so the type of voice that I have, Wagnerian, this heavy, dramatic soprano. It's a high voice, but it's a very thick voice. So my voice always lended itself to being an opera singer, and it was around me, so I loved it. My father, opera singer, my mom always had this beautiful, light lyric, uh, soprano high voice. One I was always very envious of. I had like the opposite, like she's like the chiaro, I'm like the scuro, and so I liked pop music, but and I was like the jazz band vocalist and stuff. But when I sang it, it was definitely more operatic. And
Mhm.
so when I went into music teaching, that was where my voice went. And work that I could get by being in church jobs is definitely classical. Um, and so because of my voice, that's why I chose that. And now that I have like, I'm, 50, and now my voice is really like ironed out in terms of technically, I can kind of sing pop music. It's more of like the lower female, like your Adele-ish kind of sound,
Mhm.
but I can sing it. But it was just I basically where my voice wanted to be, which is why
Yeah.
I chose opera, and I love it. It's kind of in my soul.
Yeah, and I have like a funny story when it comes to opera. In eighth grade, in my school, it was still music was in the schools at that point. So
It still is, still is.
yeah, and I want to get into that because I feel like I'm big in education, so I feel that's a very crucial component to education and curriculum, and I'm so thankful that at my school we had like in eighth grade, for some reason the eighth grade was known for in my school for putting on like productions.
Nice.
So our principal at that time, I'm Italian, he's Italian, he knew my family, he started opera appreciation.
Amazing.
And so we were exposed to Pagliacci with Pavarotti, and he broke it down for us, and the whole, because none of us spoke Italian or understood Italian, but like really like educated us on what we were being exposed to. He took us to see Madame Butterfly. He like
Nice.
a lot
Wow.
of like classical operas, and like I was instantly like drawn to it. And later in my years, I worked for New Jersey Performing Arts Center, and I was the arts and education coordinator there. So the curriculum that we were exposing to the students, I actually was exposing to myself.
Wow.
And we were able to, like, the great thing about working there was for a lot of the performances, when there was empty seats, they would give us free tickets. So like I would go to a bunch of things like operas that I was not necessarily exposed to, and just emotionally would get like, I mean, I would get like really emotional. I think it's something with opera that
Deep level.
touches like, yeah, it's like deep, and it's
Yeah.
like touches the soul. And even though you may not like, I didn't understand a lot of what
Right.
was being said, but it was beyond anything that it broke like language barriers, and
Yep.
it just like I would walk out of there and be like so emotionally and deeply touched,
Mm-hmm.
that it was, while it may not be something that I'm very versed in, like yourself, of course, but it's something like I just love it. I love the passion that goes into it. I love the just everything about it. It's so rich.
Yeah, it's so rich and transcends, it's great to understand it too, but you can appreciate it even without knowing the text. Like
Yeah,
it reaches you.
yeah. And I mean, your gift is just like phenomenal. So that's even like to have been very much right next to you, literally, every Sunday, to hear that, was like sometimes like I would have to like pull, like literally, like I'm not bullshitting you or anything like that. I would literally have to like rein myself in, because like I would be so enthralled by the environment,
Yeah.
is very overwhelming to begin with. And then to have somebody like you sitting right in front of me every week, it was just something like something that I really miss today, because I don't live there anymore. I almost wish I could have picked everything up and brought it down to Point Pleasant Beach, but it's something like I really to this day miss, because it
Find you a
was,
place there.
I know, but it's like it's so hard, Liz, because of that experience that I had and the connection that I had to the church and to you guys, and seeing like those faces every week and hearing your voices and your gift. I don't I it's something that I hope I do find, but I don't think that it will be the same because of the connection. But it's something that I carry with me.
Amazing.
Even on days like when I'm not feeling my best, I kind of transport myself to that environment, that time, and like kind of just remember how that made me feel. But I love that you brought up arts in the schools, because I'm very big, like I said, into education and the arts. And coming from a city like Newark, where there is a lot of fluctuation in curriculum and how schools are run, and state running it versus districts running it, we lost in the city of Newark a lot of our educational programs. I don't have to tell you, the first thing that gets cut funding is usually stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I commend you for what you do for young people and young minds.
Well, and we have a really supportive district like that we have, and I have a wonderful supervisor, and each of the schools have big programs, the middle school, high school, elementary, and I see it around me too. Like, so it is there. Edison and South Brunswick is, statewide known, and so I'm very proud. I'm in North Brunswick, and I'm very appreciative to be in a district where I do, shows with my kids. I do chorus concerts, and these are, 9 and 10-year-olds. So
Yeah.
it is around. New Jersey's very strong, and I know it was in Illinois.
Yeah, and there's so much that the young minds get out of the arts in school, and I really feel like it's something like I'm a big part. Like I've participated in a lot of stuff with like Save Our Music and things like that, because I just feel so passionate about I guess because it was very much something that was instilled in me by teachers and educators. And I took, while I may not be in that area or that field right now, it's something that has always, always, always been carried through my life.
Wow.
And I actually taught dance in a Boys and Girls Club for some years.
Cool.
Yeah, so hip hop. So and you can attest to this. Like, there's something about watching the youngsters and seeing them develop skills and the energy behind it. I think that's probably a great gift to have every day that you see that when you go into work. Yeah. And I love all the productions and stuff that you do with the kids. I love when you post stuff, and I get to see that because you could see that they love it, and they have a great educator behind them teaching them.
Thank you.
And it's just phenomenal. So I love the fact also, besides you being like a great opera singer, that we have like a love for all things like movies and pop culture.
Yes. Yeah.
Liz, tell people what you blog about, like with movies and stuff.
I you talked about things that are not, don't go a specific path, and I'm drawn to the horror genre because I feel like a lot of us hide our authenticity, and I feel like the horror genre kind of like turns that upside down.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything we're kind of afraid of, like I kind of embrace it because I'm like, I think all of us have an inner Annabelle. So like, seriously. So my wife's always like, why are you watching this? She's like afraid. And I'm like, because, it's just this perfect picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, maybe some people have that, but identity of perfect is so different for everybody. So I am an armrest renegade, because basically if you go to a movie with me, I will probably steal the armrest. And I blog about movies and how they connect with, us as people, and, our kind of false ideas of what we're supposed to be doing. That really kind of bothers me. So, just why I like to go see films. There was a recent film called Loose. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating because it's this child who, is perfect in so many ways, but the underbelly of it is just like, oh wow, and you see his smile, but the pain underneath. And to me, that I'm drawn to that because I feel like the sooner we can kind of like really unpack that, maybe that'll help some of the mental health issues that are going on that seem to be rising.
Yeah. So that brings me to a new segment that I want to do. And Liz is going to be like my first attempt at this. So we're going to play a little game called Pop Pro Quo. All right.
Pop Pro Quo.
Okay, so the premise of Pop Pro Quo is keen to guess about something that they really like, that we may have in common, and we're going to use the horror genre or a movie that Liz has seen recently, and she's just going to tell me a little bit about it and ask me questions about if I'm going to like it or if I've seen it, characters, whatever she wants to kind of throw at me. And then I'm going to do the same for her. I'm going to give her a movie that I've seen recently and kind of pick her brain about it as well. So I'll start with Liz. Liz, give me something that you've seen recently that really was like one of your 2 thumbs up.
Okay. So, and I haven't yet blogged about it, but
yes!
Yes.
We get the exclusive here at UNnormalized Podcast.
Indeed. So I gotta and this is terrible because I'm remembering the title. I'm going back. Anyway, one that I definitely saw is called The Aftermath, and it's more, I like the art house movies too because I feel like they really get the underbelly, and it's about basically, okay, World War II is over, you're in Berlin and your entire city has been bombed out, and everybody hates the Nazis no matter what, and people are coming in allegedly trying to help, and so like, what does that look like? And what about the people that are still really like allegiant to Hitler? And there were a lot, especially young people left over with tattoos, and they were doing terrible things and giving up themselves for the Fuhrer, or vice versa. What about the people, the allies, our allies, self-included, coming in and taking advantage of people and judging people just because we won, so to speak. So that really hit home. It's called The Aftermath. It's with Keira Knightley, and she goes in and she lives in a former, I guess, a sympathizer's home, but she, they're supposed to get out of this like beautiful mansion, and she and her husband allow them, but then she realizes that a picture of Hitler has been covered up.
Oh.
And she has this disdain, but then ends up falling in love with him. And so it's about the blurring of the lines of relationships and the lack of absolute in society. We all like absolute so much. So I was very moved by
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. And I haven't seen Aftermath, but I love like that period of like when movies are made in that period, like
Yeah.
World War II, because like you said, it is fascinating that how I don't know. Have you ever watched? I don't know if you're a TV. I'm a TV person, so have you ever watched Man in the High Castle?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
so it's kind of like how you're explaining about Aftermath is kind of similar to that, whereas the country, the United States, is it's like what happened after World War II. So,
Oh wow.
but we lost. So it's what it would look like if we lost World War II and the Nazi Party came over and took over the United States. So half of the United States is owned by the Nazis or ruled by the Nazis, and the other half is ruled by the Japanese. So, and there's territories that are like neutral territories where everyone kind of like is trying to get to because they're almost like safe zones.
Okay.
So, you see a lot of what you were talking about, like how the culture changes and people are like either drawn to, you know, the Nazi rule and become part of the Nazi party. And then you see how some other people are pulled towards the Japanese. Very interesting. So it's like
It's called Man in the Castle.
Man in the High Castle,
Okay, I gotta check this out.
which I don't want to ruin it for you. I think you would like it
Okay.
because it's called Man in the High Castle. They're trying to find who the man in the like who's running like the resistance.
Okay.
And there's it's like a lot of like time warps and complexities on top of all that. But it's based on a female who is trying to get to like neutral zones and find out who this man is who is running the resistance.
Okay. Cool.
Very cool.
Check it
So
out.
definitely check it out. I think you can
Absolutely.
get it on like it's a Netflix series.
Okay.
So if you're a Netflix
Yep.
person, you like to binge 2 seasons, check it out. So I definitely will check out Aftermath. So thank you for that. I love that. I love all Liz's reviews because just how she explained Aftermath and she pulls you in to it is just how her reviews are.
Well, thank you.
Very like, and she's honest. Like she'll tell you if it sucks, which
Yes.
which is great because it saves me time to go see it because like I feel like I have like a similar taste in
Yes.
movies, especially horror genres. So I recently had the privilege to go see there was only 3 screenings of it, limited engagement, limited theaters. One of Rob Zombie. Now, bear with me on this. Um, Rob Zombie's films, and it actually was a well. First of all, when I went to the theater, I thought I was going to the screening of. It's called Three from Hell, and it's based on a family called the Fireflies, and they're serial killers and mass murderers. And yeah, it's great, but it's almost like a 3 part to a series of films that he made. The first one was A House of a Thousand Corpses, which is the introduction to who the Firefly family is, and then a lot of people have heard of like The Devil's Rejects. That is like the sequel to that, and Three from Hell is like the 3rd part in the trilogy.
Wow.
So when I go to the movie, I'm expecting to see Three from Hell, and I get there and the movie starts and all that, and I come to realize that I'm really watching The Devil's Rejects, and it was a double feature. So they gave us the second
Wow.
part leading up to the movie, and what it's about is Rob Zombie films. I don't know if you've ever seen a Rob Zombie film. So they're very much like independent. A lot of them are low budget. I think this was like the highest budget that he's ever spent on a horror film. And the only way that I can describe it is like it's a throwback to like the B horror movies from back in the day, where like the acting is not stellar, and it's more of that pulling out of the fear versus like watching big actors play a role. And Rob Zombie's wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, she's in all his films. So she plays baby Firefly, and she's like almost like a...
Wow.
They all have like very deep psychotic type of personalities. And the film is... Have you ever seen Natural Born Killers?
I have.
Okay. Yeah. So think of Natural Born Killers, but in a family.
Oh.
family of like Mickey and Mallory Knoxes, okay? And that's the Firefly family. So, but the beautiful thing about this film, Liz, was that he kind of took it to a higher level. I don't know, he spent more on the movie. I think there's like a big cult following. Like, I was expecting to go into the movie theater and there not be a lot of people. It was packed.
Amazing. Wow. Where did you see it?
It was at the Regal in North Brunswick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
nice.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and it was very limited. Like, there was only like 2 movie theaters in New Jersey. And we were lucky to have it because what I was reading is people were coming from like Pennsylvania, from New York, from like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Virginia, because they weren't showing it in that area. So they were actually coming up to New Jersey. So we were just lucky enough to have it. And it was like really, really good. So I definitely recommend it. There's some great actors in it. And I'm actually going to have 2 of them on the show. One is Dee Wallace. So you probably know Dee Wallace, Liz, from... She was the mom in E.T.
Okay, yeah.
She was the mom in Cujo.
Wow.
And she was in The Howling.
Okay.
So she was in it. She plays a really like really messed up prison guard, because how the movie runs is in the ending of the second part, which is the Devil's Rejects, they actually get caught and they get locked up. So we see the beginning of 3 from Hell, how they're actually incarcerated and how they break out of prison.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And Dee Wallace plays the female guard in the female prison, and her and Baby Firefly have this like combative relationship. And it's just amazing to see her in that role. Yeah. She plays like a really like country bumpkin type of what we don't call it white trash anymore because that's not politically correct. So we call it whiskey tango now. Nice. So she's very, very whiskey tango. So I definitely, if you like that kind of stuff, again, it's not a high budget film, but it's something that I think you would like. And maybe start with watching A House of a Thousand Corpses, so you kind of get that storyline. Yeah. And then Devil's Rejects is great. And then this is more of like 3 from Hell is more of like your natural born killer, because they're like out. Yeah, they're a family, so it's basically a brother who are left, a brother and a sister, and their stepbrother, who is Richard Brake, who I'm going to have on. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, Liz, I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones.
No, I can't believe it. I don't. My wife does, though.
Okay, so tell her that Richard Brake is coming on, and he is the gentleman that played the Night King.
She's getting very excited.
So tell her I'm going to have he's the original. There was 2 actors that played the Night King. He's the original gentleman that played the Night King. He also...
Wow.
Yeah, he also played in another film, 31, which he played a horror kind of character called Doomshead, which a lot of people kind of know his. If you see the image, you're probably going to know what it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's the stepbrother in 3 from Hell, so he's going to be on too as well. So
Amazing.
tell her she has to tune in to because we're gonna have the original Night King on from Game of Thrones. She's probably like,
Yeah,
I
she's
see
like,
your
so
face.
she got her VR thing on her head, and she's like, so that's awesome.
So thank you for giving us Aftermath. So I'm going to definitely check that out. Everybody check that out. I'll put a link to like maybe how people can get to Aftermath and
Sure.
3 from Hell in the comments of this episode when I post it.
Yay.
So this way everybody can kind of go to it. Liz, I also know that one of your guilty pleasures,
Yeah.
and when I read this, it made me fall even more in love with you.
Aw.
Our mutual love for Nutella.
Ah! Yes, I could bathe in it. Yes.
Okay, so when I have said that to my wife before, like I could rub it all over my body.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
I absolutely love Nutella. And when I saw that, I was like, a fellow Nutella head. I will put Nutella on everything. You know, people say that they put Frank's Red Hot sauce on everything. I put Nutella on everything.
It works. I mean, you can put it on your shoe. I mean, you're good. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
And being Italian, it's like, a staple in our it's like butter.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Cool.
It's essential.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So Liz, tell us what you have coming up that you're excited about, that you're working on projects where we can maybe go see you.
Absolutely. Oh, the Cathedral Choir, we are going to sing, and Elizabeth, my wife, she's gonna be in the first soprano section, and she was invited as a guest. We are going to sing at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. So we're doing that the end of October, and it's just with the cardinal, and so we're very, very excited to be a part of that liturgy. So that's coming up, and it's a possibility in the spring. I've been working on the first act of Valkyrie by Wagner, and it's a possibility that I will be doing a role in that in the spring as well in New Jersey. So those details are being worked out, but that's what I'm working on right now. So getting my German ready.
Nice.
So
and how can also tell people how can people meet and follow your journey, not only in music but in life? I know you're big on Facebook, but like, where can people see some of your work that you've done in the past, things like that we can, social media is a great marketing tool. So how can I know how to follow you, but tell people who are watching and listening to this how they can.
I do have a website, elizabethperryman.com, and I also let me decline this. Sorry about that.
No,
and I also have a YouTube channel where I post, like I just did a recital in August, and so I'm trying to remember my YouTube. Liz, do you know? Is it Spinto Liz 68? I think so. Spinto Liz 68 is the handle.
Okay.
And then of course I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I post a lot of things on Twitter as well. Spinto Liz. Spinto is actually the type of voice I am. It literally means to push. So it's like the thick dramatic. So that's why I call myself that. So I have, Twitter, Instagram, obviously Facebook, but I know that's like totally old school now. And
that's okay. We're old school, Liz. That's how we roll.
Exactly. And then the YouTube, and then my website, which I have a lot of clips and performances that I've done and am doing. So.
Okay, awesome. So I also will put all of those links, all of Liz's social media handles in the description of this video, so you guys can kind of follow her journey.
Thank you.
She is super amazing. Yay. So Liz, before I let you go, would you grace us with maybe a little bit of what you do?
Like sing something?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so I would love to.
Make my life right now.
In the movie Driving Miss Daisy, do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a scene where the Jessica Tandy character is sitting in this little wicker room, and this is when I first heard this aria, and I'm like, holy crap! It's called "The Song to the Moon." It's the one I did at the Met audition that I didn't suck at, and so she's sitting and she's listening to it, and it's basically the opera's version of The Little Mermaid. The Rusalka, the character, is a mermaid, and she wants the human to fall in love with her, so she's singing. Asitot bomigat buri, miasit kun nazashli, miasit kun nazashli.
Oh my God. I just can't even tell you. Like, I literally am not bullshitting you. Like, my eyes are welling up with tears. I have chills up and down my arms and all over my body. Like, and people, if that doesn't touch your soul, I don't know what you need to do, but that is some, like, soul touching.
Thank you.
A gift that doesn't come to everybody. Liz, you touch me so much with what you do, and I'm glad that I get to immortalize that a little bit because I miss it, and now I can listen to it now whenever I want in my car and like when I need a break at work and stuff like that. So everybody, that is the beauty that lives in Liz. Besides just the phenomenal, awesome person that she is, she gets to give us this gift. And if you can follow Liz, stay on top with what she's doing. If she's performing somewhere in your area where you can go see her, this is a little bit of what she does, but you have to experience it for yourself live and in person because you'll instantaneously, if you didn't fall in love with her this time through this little episode, you're gonna fall in love with her when you do see her perform. So
that was just a little part of it, so I can give you the full link to it. That was like the interior of the piece. So.
Yes. So and that is just a taste of Liz Perryman, and I'm so grateful to have her on. Liz, please feel that you have a home here at UNnormalized Podcast. So if there's any movies you want to talk about with me, any projects you have coming up, any performances you would like to share with people, let me know. We'll keep everybody in touch and up to date with what you're doing. And thank you so much, Liz, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And everybody, I want you guys to follow her. Everything is going to be in the description of this episode, and that's the UNnormalized Podcast. You've been witness to perfection and a gift. So everybody, thank you for watching UNnormalized Podcast with your host Frankie A and my special guest Liz Perryman, and get unnormalized.
Thank you.